So I know we just talked about it a second ago, but now we're recording. So you said, and this is Kyle, by the way, Kyle Wallace
Thank
from
you,
Charlestown Brewery List on Instagram, and we'll get into that. And also Cellarman/janitor is what you say on your Instagram, right?
Yes,
Over there at
mostly janitor.
Charlestown Fermentory. Do you say fermentory or fermentory?
You could say it either way. We say fermentory.
Okay, that's what I would say too, but a lot of people just say fermentory.
It doesn't matter. As long as you drink the beer, we'll answer to it.
Right. So we talked a second ago about you were going to start up, or you started, or you were involved in a podcast/YouTube channel at one point.
I was.
What happened with that?
It's one of those deals where technology is kind of hard to keep up with on a very low budget. So trying to do a video or audio podcast, I found it was easier just to promote more by social media. And the more and more I got involved in the craft beer industry, the more I was actually physically working in the industry and not having that much time to actually go out and do interviews and podcasts. So
right.
It just kind of generated into a more working social media thing.
Okay. And we'll get into that here in a second. What do you got over here? Let's open because these beers are over here getting warm. Let's go ahead and open a beer and just start off with that.
These are Yacht Party, which is the American Lager by Charlestown Fermentory. It is a easygoing summer drink, perfect for beaches and for boats.
Right.
It's kind of like a craft brewery, maybe Budweiser, something more readily available to less connoisseurs of the craft beer industry.
Okay. So kind of an entry level type thing.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And I usually pull up like an Untapped type thing, but I figured since you're over there, you'd probably give me a better description than what Untapped would do. But is there a good description on Untapped? Do you know?
Heck, I don't know. I don't even follow Untapped, but it is. It's.
You don't go on there at all?
No, I don't. It's like I said, it's an American Lager. I think it's 4.6%. Just a nice, easygoing, crisp lager.
Right. All right. Well, let's open it up. Give me yours. Well, you go ahead and pour yours. And like I said, I just started up this new computer here, this Mac. I normally do a Surface Pro. I don't even have my Untapped logged in on this computer right now. So I'd be hard-pressed to figure out even what my login is at this point to give you an Untapped description of this thing. Let's see what we got here. I'll try and see if I can figure it out real quick without wasting too much time. Untapped. So what's your favorite beer over there right now? Do you have a favorite?
The next one we do.
The next one? All right.
It is the craft beer industry right now is such a beautiful time to be there that my taste buds have changed so much just even over the last 6 months. There's so much new and great stuff coming out. I really do like Yacht Party. One of the new ones that you have over there is actually called Swamingo, which is a sour ale.
Okay.
Sour IPA, excuse me. And but it has lime, tangerine, lactose, and vanilla. So it's got a nice sweetness to it also, a tart sweetness. And I really like that. I never used to drink those kind of beers.
How do you spell yacht?
Y-A-C-H-T.
C-H-T. There we go. I got logged in there. So, and these guys are making a resurgence, right? I mean, everybody seems to be making a lager or a pilsner or some kind of light beer at this point. I mean, you even got some malt liquors making a comeback. I know Edmonds Oast has done one. Westbrook has done one here locally. What are your feelings on that?
I've always said that it goes lager, IPA, milkshake IPA, stouts, something else, and then back to lagers. So I don't think it's so much changing as it's circling back around, and then sometime in the future we'll see the next big beer to take off.
Right.
We in Charleston we had a tremendous amount of breweries pop up in just a couple of years.
Yeah.
And so one of the big popular thing was New England IPAs.
Yeah.
So personally, I think that it wasn't so much people were burned out of IPAs; they were just ready to go on to something else.
And I think that's the thing, right? Everybody wants the next best thing. People could just get burnt out. They get, I don't know if it's ADD or whatever, but they get just they always want the next best thing. And I think, like you said, it's a resurgence now. People are kind of circling back around to the lagers, pilsners, and that's the next best thing, even though it's been around since the beginning, really.
Right.
Yeah. I got burnt out on the New England style IPAs. I don't know how you feel about it, but it seemed like everybody was doing a juicy, hazy IPA, and you just couldn't get away from it. And I kind of reverted back to here recently to the West Coast style, American style. More bitter,
right,
more classic, what you would think of as an IPA. But they still have their place for sure. And I love, fermentory stuff, or fermentory, however we decided we're going to say it.
Doesn't matter.
I mean, we got Zuma, and we have Sungazer on right now at Homegrown Brew House,
right.
And the Pallet Rider, the propulsion. I mean, everything those guys make is just fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
But along those lines, talking with lagers is that there's a much more abundance of hops too, and people are more willing to experiment with even a lager with different hops than they might have normally used.
Right.
So I think that's another reason why people are kind of like going to the next thing, is because it's not just a straight lager based on the German purity laws. It's now a lager with 2 different types of hops or something like that. So
sure.
There's a better availability of ingredients than there was even 5 years ago.
Right. That's a fair point. And just to kind of sidebar here, I looked up on tap. So Yacht Party from you guys says a lager, American light lager is what it says. And the basic description is dry, clean, American style lager. Which, I don't know if you need much more than that.
And I think
that's exactly what it is.
Roughly, if you were unofficially to do the math, it'd be like 150, 160 calories. That's why it can be deemed light.
Right.
Whereas like a normal IPA is usually around 200, and a stout's like 14,000. So
14,000. You're right. There are some that I think do have that many calories in it for sure. Like I was just up at Lowe's Foods earlier today, and they got the birthday bomb on tap from Prairie.
Yeah.
And that's thick. It's got a lot of stuff going on in it. But what is the most popular beer over there right now? I mean, what would you say if you were to say Fermentory had a flagship beer? What is their flagship beer?
Well, we try very hard not to have a flagship beer because, in my opinion, I sometimes think breweries not so much pigeonhole, but if they have one good beer and everybody wants that one good beer, then they're stuck always making that one good beer.
Right.
So Sungazer was our first very popular beer.
Okay.
New England style IPA. But Adam and Justin, the brewer and assistant brewer, they're always looking for something that will appeal that's not just the same old that we've always had. Now I know that if it's good, it brings people in. But along the same line, if you still have another new good beer, it'll still bring even more people in. So it's kind of hard to say that there's a flagship because we rotate through so many different beers. We don't ever have one beer always on tap.
Okay.
So it's, I was looking today at like Rusty Bull, how they have Belly Itcher, which is now their flagship beer at the baseball stadium. So now they're kind of, I don't want to say trapped, but now they always have to be making that beer to put it in cans to have it at the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it sells or not or doesn't sell, it's something that they always have to be aware of that has to be in production. And I think Dockery's is doing a beer too for the Volvo Stadium. So that's something that they always have to have in the plans where they can't experiment with something new. Right. Or they can't go out on a limb on something.
Well, but I mean, they can though, right? I mean, they have enough fermenters and barrels to do a ton of different beer. But I mean, to have a niche and to have a beer that is going to constantly sell, and that is a I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but I can't think of the word now. But something that, like you said, you're going to sell at a baseball game. That's going to sell, right? I mean, it's not really going to be a loss. I mean, it's something that's a gain for you guys or for Rusty Bull or for any of those guys, right?
It can be, but what happens after 2 years when somebody says, hey, we've had your beer for 2 years, but we want to try this new one? that this other brewery put out. So it's
Well,
if it
that's
if
the
it,
whole competition of the thing. Yeah.
yeah. So it can be a good thing. It can be very lucrative. We just at the brewery we try not to pigeonhole into one thing that we want people to always be looking for what's the next thing coming out, whether
Right.
it's IPA or what. So
Right. And I haven't been over there in quite a while, actually. I'll apologize right now for not getting over there quite often, but um, it's a little far away. I mean, I'm in Somerville. It's the parking situation seems to be a little iffy sometimes when I go over there, just depending on the time of day I go over there, obviously. But what is your kitchen situation now? Is there a full-time kitchen? Is it still pop-up style, or is there food trucks?
it is still pop up style. Right now we have every day of the week booked, rotating. And I think this week I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think we even repeat any one different food venue. So it's like to keep it always rotating. Sometimes it can be hit or miss, which is anybody that's in the market with food trucks or food venues like that. There's always something that can happen and they can't show up.
Yeah.
But we do pretty good in keeping the kitchen full.
Nice.
And
Yeah, anytime I've been over there, the food has been phenomenal. Whoever's been over there, but
we've been lucky enough to have a couple of startup ones that have turned out to be very successful. And unfortunately, they go and open their own brick and mortar and get really successful, and they never show up again.
right.
But still, it's a nice little rotating market.
Yeah. Good.
And as far as the parking goes, yeah, Avondale's it's a tough place to park.
Yeah, the
along
whole
that.
place over there is just a little. You got to keep circling until you just find something.
Yes, and it doesn't help that Jeans, the Roost, like Voodoo and Venue, and all those places across the street are so popular, and Mellow Mushroom. Sometimes the whole block's full. So
Right, and that could work against you or for you, right? I mean, you could be, it's kind of like the restaurant that has, the velvet rope, and you got a line going out the door. People want to go to that place. They're like, oh, that's the place to be. There's a line out the door. Kind of the same thing with you guys, right? I mean, the parking area. People are circling around trying to find the spot, and they say, "Oh, these guys must be popular." People are packed over here,
well, I've
or
always
just in that area in general, right? Avondale
Yes.
in general, but
I've always been very attracted to businesses, not just breweries. Businesses that are kind of a little more personal and homey feel. I think sometimes businesses go too generic. We have open parking. We have the perfect, menu. We have the perfect place you come and eat. Come on, bring 100 people with you.
right.
Sometimes I think it's better if you can't get 100 people in there. You kind of got to wait a little bit, or
Sure.
make it a little hard to get to.
Yeah, that definitely makes people want to be there. I think a little bit more. It's just the way the society works, right? And the good thing about you guys too, on a side note, is you guys can open the doors up, or you can close it. So like the heat we got going on right now, you guys can close it up and be air conditioned, right?
Right. We
Yeah.
can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where the building itself used to be a laundromat.
Really?
So it's the way it's set up. It has a rolling door in the front and a rolling door in the back. And the way we have the tap room arranged, we can get some nice ventilation through there, some sunlight. Everybody can enjoy the Savannah Road traffic. But yeah, it's a nice little place.
Right.
It has some structural steel in there. It has some great big I-beams because we think, if I remember correctly, it used to have a second story, but one of the hurricanes took care of it.
Okay.
So there's some massive steel beams in the back that come from Pittsburgh in like the early 1900s. And it's just a cool architectural feature.
Yeah. It's very cool. Like I said, I wish I could just get over there more often than I do, but it's just a drive for me from Somerville. But if you live in West Ashley, I mean, it's the premier spot to be, I think, or one of.
Yeah, and we do have a lot of foot traffic, which is really nice. It's something that sometimes people just like to get out and walk around. So we're lucky that we have restaurants around us and stuff like that to where people can go and just hang out and then maybe come have a beer or two.
Yeah, it's a destination. I mean, you can, like you said, get out. You got different restaurants. You got full bars. You got breweries. You got good food. You got German styles. You got just a little bit of everything going on right there.
Yes, you do.
It's a nice little mesh of everything, really. What made you start your Charleston Brewery List? That's what it's called, right?
List, yes.
So how'd you get started with that?
Well, it originally started, my wife and I moved here about 5 years ago, but we had been...
From where?
Lexington, Kentucky.
Okay.
But we had been involved in the craft beer industry in Lexington for a couple years, and while we were there, we noticed that there was so many beer review sites or people talking about the beer or even just the brewery or brewery reviews. And we just wanted to do something where we kind of showcase the people and the places as opposed to like a, a venue, if that makes sense, a place instead of a venue.
Okay.
So we started out with Yulee at Fat Pig, whom he hadn't even built his brewery yet. It was just chalk marks on the floor. But he took a chance to just interview with me.
And they used to brew out of Tradesman, correct?
Yes,
over
that's
there?
correct. Yeah, he was a brewer tradesman. He started out on his own 4 years ago, and it just took off from there. And then all of a sudden, I just kept bugging people until they finally let me show up, and it turned out to be, it's a beautiful industry. I mean, the people, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a brewery helping another brewery out.
Sure.
They share ingredients, they share cooler space, and we fell in love. You know, we wanted to try and put the stories out about the people that work there, as opposed to like rate the beer.
Right. And that's a fantastic point. Well, first off, what brought you from Lexington to here? I mean, why'd you make that move?
So my mom and dad growing up, they always vacation in Fripp Island.
I don't even know where that is. Fripp Island.
Fripp
I've
Island.
heard of it.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit south of Hilton Head.
Okay.
A small little place. So growing up, we would always stop in Charleston as one of the last stops before going to the island. And just loved the place. It was just kind of it was us getting out of Kentucky. So when my wife and I got together 20-something years ago, the first thing we did was vacation in Charleston. And we decided then that when we got rid of the kids, we were moving here.
Mm-hmm.
So for my daughter's 18th birthday, we told her that we were moving. And we didn't tell them where we were moving to, we just left. But somehow they found their way down here.
Yeah.
But we just decided we wanted to be, it wasn't so much like the beach or the weather, it's just you fall in love with the city.
Right.
And we fell in love with Charleston. And luckily, one of my coworkers from Lexington, his son was going to the Citadel. So he got a job down here, and then he was able to call me up and say, hey, you want to come work with me? And so in like 3 months' time, we packed up and moved.
Right. And that was at the fermentory?
No. My full-time job is electrician for the government.
Okay.
I work part-time at the fermentory.
Okay. So government contractor then?
No, actually, an electrician for one of the college, Trident Technical College.
Okay.
So in theory, it's the government, but it's a college.
Right.
And I was a electrical contractor for 26 years in Lexington, and so this is my retirement job.
Okay.
My real hard work is at the fermentory.
Yeah. I bet. How many kids? You said an 18-year-old daughter?
Well, she's 22 now.
Oh, okay.
And a 29-year-old son.
Wow. Okay.
So
Very cool. And they're both here locally now?
They both moved down here with us, and so did my wife's sister. They just
Very
kept
nice.
coming and coming.
Yeah.
We kept moving, and they kept following.
That's awesome. I wish I could get my kids to move back here, but they're satisfied with the West Coast right now, so they're not coming here anytime soon. I'm thinking about going that direction, as a matter of fact, but we'll see what happens. But you made a good point about the breweries, how they. Yeah, it's not. I've discussed it before on this podcast, but it's not like cutthroat like most businesses are. Most businesses are like, let's undercut the other guy and let's get rid of the other guy that's in competition with us, like a Lowe's or a Home Depot or whatever. It may be McDonald's, Burger King. But the brewery community seems to be, they always work together. Mm-hmm. It's a community. I mean, that's exactly what it is. And they collaborate. They do beers together. Like you said, they share space. They share brewing equipment. They're always promoting each other. It just seems to be a totally different animal when it comes to consumerism than all the other businesses out there.
It is.
I can't think of another business that does that, really.
And I saw where you did an interview with Paul from Holy City.
Yep.
One of the nicest guys. The first time I went to talk to him, he just dropped everything he could. He said, come on by, man. Have a beer. Let's sit and talk.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of businesses that will do that. There's... where they'll take time and say, just come and enjoy yourself and let's chat.
Yeah.
Oh, it really is. There's a lot of people. They want you to succeed, and there's many times I go into a brewery, and I'll hear somebody say, "Well, where should I go next?" And they'll tell them.
Yeah.
They don't say stay here. They say, "Well, go try this or go
Absolutely.
try this."
Yeah. Yeah. Paul is fantastic. And every brewery I've been in touch with and been involved with on this podcast or otherwise, same thing. I mean, they're just super nice people. They'll give you the shirts off their back. They give you a deal. They give you a free pint, whatever. And the same thing. They'll tell you to go, go around the corner to Polly's Island or go around the corner to Free House and check out all the other guys around us. So, yeah, it's a fantastic community. And that's kind of why I started this podcast. And I love talking to the breweries and going to the breweries because they're real. They're real people.
And it continues. Justin at Famulari's, I went down and interviewed him and Colin before they were built. But every time we go down there, they're always like, "Glad to see you. Come in. Look at what we're doing next. Do you want something to drink? Come to this event." It doesn't stop. At one visit. They continue to welcome you every time they come.
Yeah. And I'm happy you mentioned Famulari's. I know we're talking about fermentory, but
no, let's talk about all the breweries.
We'll talk about anybody, right? I mean, Famulari's. I did an event last year called Rivercraft. 2018, we did it out at a place called Blackwater on the Ashley. We had a bunch of music people out there, and I asked a few breweries to come out there and support us. Holy City being one of them. Frothy Beard was another one, and Fam's Brewing was another one. And Fam's, we were trying to get around some of the legal aspects, and I probably shouldn't say this on the podcast, but we were trying to get around some of the legal stuff, and Justin said, "Screw it, I'm gonna bring some of my beers out there. I don't care what the legal ramifications are. I don't care what the rules are. We're gonna enjoy some Fam's beer," and that's what he did. He brought himself out there and brought 3 different beers out there and didn't care what the rules were. He said, "I'm gonna pour beer for Fam's Brewing and support your podcast and support this event," and he did it, and we didn't get in any trouble. So that's the good thing. Yeah.
Fam's has been one of those breweries that when I first talked to him, he said, "I'm a home brewer. I've been in a small scale. We're going to start up a pizza and brewery." And at that time, Frothy Beard had already been up and running. Right. So in my mind, I was like, "All right, well, you already."
Oh, you talking about the new one?
Yeah,
with Zombie Bob's. Yeah.
Yeah. It was Zombie Bob's, and I was like, "All right, well, you have a benchmark in Charleston," but he's been killing it from the word go. A Cup of Clouds is a very successful beer. That's one that I hear in the beer community talked about a lot, and for a brewery it's only been up and going a couple years. That's great.
Yeah,
that's
right out the box.
Really good
Killed
to
it.
hear. Yes.
Yeah, and he brought that out to the event, as a matter of fact. This was his first bottle that he did right here.
Yeah, Ocean's
Divide. That was the first bottle release that they did. Fantastic. I mean, he kills it.
He does.
Right out the box, I don't think he's had any losing beers yet.
And so funny you bring that up. Talking about the beer industry, that beer, one of the fermentary beers, one of the Frothy Beard beers, I think personally, is what started to give Westbrook Mexican Cake competition here in Charleston.
Yeah.
People are really stepping up how they package and bottle beers. Mm-hmm. And, so Mexican Cake is a Westbrook beautiful beer. All their derivatives they have of it. But now there's people that are starting to contest that. So I think it's great for the market. I think it's great for Westbrook, too, because now they can, step up their game or go into something else. But I think it's great that we now have, instead of Charleston being known for Westbrook Brewing or known for Westbrook Cake now, or Mexican Cake, now we have other stuff from, like, Fam's that, it may not be at the same marketing level, but it's getting there. It's pushing on the borders of it.
Right.
Which, that's great for business.
Right. And it kind of goes back to what we were saying. I mean, it's a community of beer around here, but it's still a competition. I mean, you're still trying to produce a better beer than the next guy, really. But I love the collaborations people are doing, too. I mean, that's the next best thing is let's put out a great beer together and not just be about ourselves. Let's help each other put out a tremendous beer. Let's share each other's ideas and ingredients and brewing space and put out something good together.
Where have you heard of 7 breweries brewing 7 beers together, like what the brewery district is doing?
Right.
That is, I mean, that's phenomenal. That you can get 7 breweries over the space of a couple years to do 7 different beers.
Yeah.
That's great for the community. That really is.
Sure.
It's a huge commitment, money, time wise, but wow, I can't applaud that enough. That's a great thing.
Yeah. Let's go backwards a little bit. So your Instagram, what's your goal with that? What are you trying to? I mean, I know you said just trying to showcase, local businesses and breweries and things like that. But do you have an end goal in mind? I mean, do you want to go do something else with that? You trying to grow that? Trying to be something different? Trying to make a new business out of it?
Absolutely not. I'm not trying. All I want to do is if I could get more followers just because I promote the local businesses, that's great. Other than that, I'm just here for the beer.
Right. And I feel the exact same way. Yeah. I mean, I got an income. I'm a retired Air Force. I mean, I'm not really trying to make a killing off of a podcast, but I just like promoting my town, and specifically Somerville. Obviously, I live here in Somerville, so I promote a lot of local musicians, and I try and promote the local breweries as much as possible. But just the low country in general, I'm just here to help people out, man, really. I mean, I'm not trying to make a buck off of anything. If it happens, fantastic. But, yeah, it's just all about promoting people and the place I live specifically. But
and while we're talking Somerville, let's talk about Oak Road.
Yeah.
They've expanded. They're doing, man, some beautiful beers right now.
Mm-hmm.
The Hellas that I had.
Lagers.
Yeah, lagers.
Yeah.
Somewhat controversial, them saying they're going lager-centric brewery. I mean, that's a bold statement to make.
Yeah.
But the beers they're putting out there right now, they don't have a bit of problem backing it up.
Well, I used to work there as well. I worked at Coastal Coffee right next door, and I worked at Oak Road as well. But, yeah, they're German-centric for sure. But they're definitely leaning more towards the lager life is what they call it. They were doing a lot of porters and stouts and some IPAs and things. And I think they're just kind of giving it all up to just do the lager-style beers. And they do a fantastic job at it. And I'm not going to lie, when they first started out, not so good. Not like Fam's Brewery where they came out right out the box doing fantastic beers. They took a while to grow and get there. And they were they had a lot of makeshift equipment that they had put together. And they've even got a new podcast. What the hell is the name of it? Brewery Life, I think it's called.
Huh.
They just started a new podcast here recently with Caleb Quire, who used to be on this podcast, as a matter of fact. He's started a new thing over there with Oak Road, and I think they're going to do what'd they say, a weekly maybe? A monthly, bi-weekly? I don't know. The Brewery Life, I think is what it's called. Let me look that up real quick. But yeah, they're doing some new stuff over there. They're listed in the as one of the fastest growing breweries in the Low Country, or is it South Carolina, or is it in general? I'm not even sure. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, they're one of the fastest growing breweries. Maybe it's in South Carolina. I don't know. I don't want to state false information, but Brewery Life podcast. And Instagram is having problems again today. It was down almost all day yesterday. I don't know if you knew it, but I can't get any info on it. But yes, it's the Brewery Life is what it's called, but Instagram is not working right now. So
cool. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, they've done one episode so far, and they're pretty much trying to do just a day in the life of a brewer. The mishaps, the funny stuff that happens, the good stuff, whatever. A day in the life of a brewery.
And now I think that they all still have day jobs too, don't they? Brian works at MUSC?
No, well, yeah. Brian is a paramedic, the head brewer over there, and one of the owners. Ben is a government contractor. He works for SRC. Both the wives, one of them is active duty military, one of them is a teacher. So yeah, they all have day jobs.
Yeah, so they're putting that on top of working at the brewery too.
Yeah, for sure. And they do a great job at it. I loved it over there. I moved on. I moved on to bigger and better things over there at Homegrown Brew House. But I'm still on the books as if they need a person to come work or sling some beers, I still go over there and serve beers over there at Oak Road. So
That's good.
I love them. They are the first, and they were the first. Well, they're still kind of the first and only brewery in Somerville because Wide Awake Brewing is technically Berkeley County.
Yeah, Berkeley County. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been over there?
I have. Eric was. I went over there when they were being built and kind of helped him out a little bit on a couple things. A couple of his beers, I think, have done quite well.
Mm-hmm.
Nice guy. He has a great little spot. I'm always a little iffy on a brewery in a strip shop because you never know if the brewery's going to do good, but nothing else is going to take off. But he seems to be doing quite well.
I think he is. Yeah, I haven't been over there in a little bit. I did a podcast with them actually before they opened, and I've been over there since then. Their opening weekend and a couple other times, and everything I've tried has been solid. And they got live music over there now. They're doing trivia. They got food trucks. Pretty much every day, I think that they're open. They have a food truck over there. I think when I talked to him, he said he was going to have 16 or 18 taps. I can't remember, but the last that I looked, I think he had 14 beers on tap.
That's great.
Yeah, so he's right off the box doing a lot of different stuff. Mm-hmm. And he decided to not go with the standard, I'm going to do just 4 or 5 beers and get those out there and perfect them. He just said, I'm going to do every freaking thing.
Right.
And he's done all kind of different styles. I mean, styles I hadn't even heard of. And they're doing real well, from what I understand. I need to get back over there and take a look and see what's going on. But
yeah, I haven't been back up there in probably about 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, it's been a couple months for me probably, but the days I want to get over there, I'm usually working, so it's tough.
You're probably like me. My wife and I, Christy, we have breweries that are either close to where we work or on the way, and then we have destination breweries.
Right.
Wide Awake is one. Oak Road's one. Indigo Reef that just opened up out Clements Ferry.
Yeah, I haven't been to that one.
They're a destination. I mean, they do great with the crowd that's out there, but you got to want to go there if you're anywhere other than that area of the city.
Right.
Traffic is 526 to get there.
Right.
So it's kind of like a Saturday visit.
Right. So that's Clements Ferry. So that's close to Dockery's, I guess.
No. Dockery's is officially Daniel Island.
Okay.
So it's inside the small city there, Daniel Island. Indigo Reef is on the outside of Clements Ferry, heading out of town.
Okay.
So where it goes from 4 lanes to 2,
mm-hmm.
There's a shopping center just off to the right at that area, and that's where they're at.
Okay.
So they're a little ways out there.
Yeah, so you couldn't hit Dockery's and that kind of in the same time.
If you wanted to.
Well, that's true, yeah. If you had enough time, yeah. But I'm just talking, a lot of places have what you call destinations. I mean, you got, if you go over to Westbrook, you can kind of hit Two Blokes and Ghost Monkey. Right. If you go over to the Brewery District, of course, you got all that going on. If you get to Holy City, you got Polly's Island, you got Free House kind of in that same area. What else you got? Well, Common House, you got Coast around the corner.
And
the new Holy City.
Yeah, the new Holy City, yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of people kind of group together, and I like that. And like you said, Paul or somebody else will say, well, yeah, don't stay here all day. Go around the corner to our friends over here, Polly's Island,
mm-hmm.
check out their beer. So I like that these people kind of group together, and I think that's good for business, and I think it's good for the community and the collaborations that they do, for sure. But Indigo, yeah, I haven't been to that one yet. Chris
used to be the assistant brewer at Two Blokes.
Okay.
So he does have, and he's an avid home brewer. He's part of Low Country Libations. So he's got some great brewing experience under his belt.
Awesome.
His beer's pretty darn solid right off the bat.
Yeah. What's their hours over there? Do you know? Indigo.
I think originally they were Wednesday through Saturday, but they've been doing so well. I think they're expanding.
Okay.
Just because I think their hardest problem has been getting food trucks.
Okay, so they don't have a kitchen.
No, they do not have a kitchen at this time. And I think, I can't remember the actual legal rules, but I think in the future there's going to come a time to where South Carolina law requires you to have food available,
Really?
or it's going to be a certain percentage of your income has to come from food, and they want that to be so where when people are drinking, they have the availability of food.
Okay.
So they'll probably have to start looking for a more available food source in the future.
Right. I'm not opposed to that.
No,
I like to
either.
have food when I go to a brewery for
Mhm.
sure. If you were to, I don't want to pin you down, but I ask this question to a lot of people, but what would be your favorite brewery?
I don't have a favorite brewery. I have a favorite style of beer associated with the brewery.
Okay.
So, like, if I'm just in the mood for a pub beer, I go to Two Blokes.
Okay.
If I'm in the mood for stouts, it would be Common House or Westbrook.
All right. Fair enough.
IPAs, juicy IPAs, I would have to say, the fermentary.
Right.
I love going to Frothy Beer because they always have something unusual. And I don't mean like, really weirdly out there, but they'll have something just a little bit different than the normal. They have quite a few taps. Lagers, Somerville. Oak Road.
Sure.
I really enjoy going to. It's a toss-up right now between Munkel and Fat Pig for like a Belgian style beer.
Right.
They're
I
almost.
have not been to Fat Pig yet.
Yuli's a great.
I mean,
guy.
we get a lot on draft at Homegrown Brew House, but and I've had some of their beer when they were brewing out of Tradesman, but haven't been to their new location. It just seems every time I'm out there, they're closed or it's a holiday or just it doesn't seem to be the right time whenever I'm out that direction. But I like your take on that. That's a very good take on it. Yeah, it depends on what I'm in the mood for because everybody has kind of their own niche, right?
Mm-hmm. Low Tide. One of my favorites from them is their Basil Better Have My Honey.
Yeah.
I don't always want it, but every once in a while, let's go to Low Tide because they'll have it there, and maybe a glitter beer or two.
And that's one of those ones that's just it's too far out from me, man. I very rarely hit it, but when I do, it's great. But it's way far away from where I am over here.
It is.
Yeah.
As of right now, Charleston has 29 operating breweries, one on hold, two building and one in planning.
Mm-hmm.
So the great thing is that there's something for everybody spread out through everywhere.
Right.
Unfortunately, the other side of that is, like you said, if you live in Somerville, going out to Low Tide or going up to, or excuse me, if you live in Mount Pleasant, going to Somerville or going out, Johns Island, you got to want to go that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to get back. That's the big
you got to get back.
that's the big thing. Yeah. But I think what's going to happen is, and hopefully, we've got Somerville now, we got Wide Awake Brewing. I hope things are going to start getting too saturated in the low country proper and start kind of gradually working their way up toward our direction here in Somerville. And we're going to get more and more breweries up here.
And I think we will, just looking at the plants opening, the Volvo plant opening up and stuff. Nexton, I think there's a brewery in plans in Nexton already.
Okay.
I know that there's another one planned, I think on Daniels Island. And one even in North Charleston, where, I know that's not like close-ish, but it's closer. Like Snafu's closer for you than going all the way down to like Coast or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to like it when Snafu was there, and of course Frothy Beer when they used to be off of Ashley Phosphate. But what can you do? Sometimes you got to drive a little bit, or Uber or Lyft or whatever you got to do to get to where you're going. But oh man, there's so much good beer out there. What's your favorite brewery in general? Do you have a favorite, United States brewery?
Probably West 6 in Lexington, Kentucky.
Never heard of it.
That was my very first brewery I ever went to. That was where I fell in love with craft beer. And they still continually put out a good West Coast IPA.
Okay.
And then a good Imperial Stout. The West Coast IPA is just called West Coast. West 6. West 6 IPA.
So West 6 is the name of the brewery?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on West 6th Street.
All right.
And they do a great Imperial Stout called Snake Eyes. I'm fortunate to be part of a beer trade group on Facebook that I have a person that lives back up there, so we get them shipped down here occasionally.
Right.
Whether it's the best in the nation, don't know, but it's my favorite.
Yeah. And you used to have family back up there as well? I mean, mom, dad, sisters, brothers, whatever?
I have my mother still up there, but that's it.
Okay.
Everybody else has gone their separate ways or followed us.
Right. So do you get up there often?
No, not too much, but occasionally.
Once a year, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have never been to anything in Kentucky. I've driven through it. I used to live in Illinois for a little while, right outside of St. Louis, and I would drive back, through Kentucky on the way back here to see family, but never stopped anywhere in Kentucky.
Are you a whiskey or bourbon fan of any kind?
Absolutely, yeah.
The Bourbon Trail is one of the most popular things.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah,
You've done it?
I've done it, and I had the pleasure of helping build Labro and Graham's distillery, which does Woodford Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time...
One of my favorites.
There was a time I could have put my hand on 100 whiskey barrels just for the taking.
Yeah.
It was like if I just carried them off the lot. Now,
For free?
For free, yeah. All I had to do was put them on a trailer, carry them off. And I was like, I don't want those things. Nobody's going to want those.
Right.
But, yeah.
And now you wish you had them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Westbrook does that quite often, right? They do a $50 for a barrel or something like that.
And it'll be second or third use barrel, yeah.
Yeah.
But I've been over there before, and I've put my hands on bourbon barrels from Woodford Reserve. It's really cool.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I don't think I've seen much from the fermentory guys, right? A lot of barrel aging stuff?
Well, we just got done doing El Rayo, which was a tequila barrel-aged beer.
Okay.
And this weekend we're releasing Subjective Reality, which is a Chardonnay, a 2-year-old Chardonnay barrel-aged golden ale.
Nice.
So we have done Stackhouse, which was a pancake imperial stout that we did with Daps, which is a restaurant.
Right, downtown, yeah.
Yeah, downtown.
Yeah, I've interviewed
Jeremy or
the Beer
Nick?
Girl Meets World or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
Anna.
Yeah. She's been on the podcast before.
Yeah,
from
I've
Daps,
done a lot of work with her. She's a great gal.
Yeah, very good.
We've done that in imperial stout and in rum barrels. So
Nice.
we've done a little bit of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I just haven't seen it, but like I said, we normally purchase we being Homegrown Brew House, the Mars Express, the Zuma, the Propulsion, the Pallet Rider, the Sun Gazer, all the IPA type stuff. But the Sessions, yeah, that's our big standard over there. Because they're great. They're fantastic. People love them. They go like Daps, hotcakes.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they're very good. Very good. So, man, I remember when I passed you that day on Dorchester Road, and I saw the back of your damn Jeep, and it had, you got your own logo there, your Instagram thing going on the back tire there, man. I was like, God damn it! I wish I had something like that on my car, some advertisement, but that's very clever.
Well, thank you. I tell you, it's literally grown out of nothing, and I never thought it would even get 100 followers on Instagram.
Right.
So I'm tickled by anybody that's involved in the industry that follows us. Literally, all we want to do is help promote beer and everybody involved with it.
Sure.
So it's snowballed, really. I wish I could afford to quit my real job and follow it, but unfortunately, there's not a lot of pay involved, as you know, in the craft beer industry too.
Right. Yeah. If you could go, I don't know, what's the next question here?
Well, hey, let's ask you, what's your favorite beer and what's your favorite brewery?
That's a good question. I really, I spent a lot of time over in the West Coast. I was stationed in Las Vegas for a few years. Spent a lot of time in California and those places. And I fell in love with Green Flash. I think Green Flash is one of the best West Coast IPAs out there. So I would have to say Green Flash is one of my favorites for sure. I'm a huge fan of Ballast Point as well. I'm a West Coast guy, I guess I could say. I like West Coast beers. I think they do a fantastic job over there. Not that we don't do a fantastic job over here on the East Coast, but I really fell in love with West Coast beers.
So, do you think there's a difference between like Upper West Coast and Lower West Coast IPAs? So, like, if somebody from here in Charleston says, "Oh, I had a West Coast IPA," would you say, like, where did you have it from?
I don't think so. I think they all do a pretty solid. I think they do pretty similar jobs.
Kind of dry, resiny, piney.
Right.
A little bit of.
A little more
bitter.
hot bite to it. Yeah, bitterness bite to it. Even though, the New England style IPAs have actually more hops in them than the West Coast IPAs, but they just because they're unfiltered or whatever it is, I'm not sure what the chemistry is there, but they're not as hop. People think hops, they think bitter.
Right.
But a New England style IPA has more hops usually than a West Coast or American style IPA, and it's not as bitter. So they're using them differently in the boil. Whether I guess this be a flavoring hop or a finishing hop versus a bittering hop.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on where they place it in the boil, I guess. But I like that resiny kind of hot bite to it. That's my favorite.
Let's see. I did have another. So, what would be like your equivalent here in Charleston for a good West Coast? You may have already said this.
No, I haven't said it. I would probably go to Holy City. I mean, Holy City does. I don't really recall them doing much of the New England style IPAs. I mean, they pretty much stick to an American or a West Coast style IPA or pale ale. So Holy City is my go-to. If you're going to ask me what my favorite brewery is in town, it's Holy City. But I like your answer that you had was it depends on what kind of beer I'm looking for, because that definitely makes a difference. But Holy City overall, I think, they have a plethora of beer. They have a great food menu. They have great, fantastic people. They have a great venue. The new venue is going to be even more fantastic. But I just think overall, if I'm wrapping it all up into one big bow, Holy City just does it for me. I mean,
all right,
that's my place to go.
I have my own opinion on this, but I'm curious what yours are. What do you think the crowd's going to differ from the old location to the new location? That's
a good question. I mean, do I think it's going to be a different clientele? Yeah, I think so for sure. Yeah, Park Circle has its own clientele, and it's right off of Park Circle, but I think it's going to be a little more bougie, I guess you could say. It's going to be a little different clientele than what's going on over there at the old location for sure.
And I think
not that that's a bad thing or a good thing or whatever. It's indifferent, but it's going to be a different clientele, and you're going to have a lot of the old clientele that are going to cross over to that location as well. So it's going to be a mix of, kind of an old downtown sketchy North Charleston location to the new kind of hip Park Circle location.
I think that's what's going to be one of the neat things about it are the people that are used to the garage brewery going to be able to enjoy the air-conditioned, nice seating, enclosed area as much as they did. Even though the beers will be the same, the staff will be the same.
Yeah.
The food hopefully will be the same because they do have a great kitchen.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be interesting. And, from what Paul told me during the interview that I did with him is the old location is still going to have a presence there for a little while, and it might have a huge presence there for a long time, but they're not quite sure what they're going to do with that old location yet. But from what I had heard originally was they were still going to maintain some sort of tap room there, and that would kind of be their barrel aging and souring location for the most part, kind of an open air fermentation type thing. The new location would be, kind of, I don't know, a little more subdued and, like you said, air conditioning. It's going to have table service and all this kind of cool stuff that they got going on. I mean, when I sat down and talked with Paul, and a lot of it didn't get on the episode because we were kind of cut for time. I think we did 12 minutes or something that day. I was expecting to sit down for an hour with Paul, but he had something come up that we couldn't sit down for that long, but from the walkthrough we did before we started the episode, I'm blown away by what the thought process that they put into that location and what they're going to do over there. People are going to be amazed by it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be phenomenal. It might be one of the best spots in town from what he told me that they're going to do, and everything they put into it and all the thought that they put into each intricacy of that place. It's going to be wild.
It is.
And I cannot I'm looking forward to that more than I've looked forward to any brewery here in town, I think.
It's a really neat place. I had the pleasure of doing work at the Codfather and doing work on the roof and watching some of the tanks go in. And then shortly after that, I got to see the new brew house, which is just them and Edmonds Oast Brewing. Those two brew houses are, I mean, my hat's off to the people that run those. They are just gigantic starships of breweries or brew houses.
Right.
They are beautiful things. How you keep track of everything going on there is beyond me.
Yeah. And I think, Holy City is one of the pioneers of the brewery, town here in Somerville, or not Somerville, the Low Country, along with Coast and Palmetto and some of the other guys that have been around a long time. And I think they're getting ready to hit a resurgence that they're not even ready for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not going to be able to accommodate the people that are going to come in and flock to this new location, I think. And I hope, people don't talk about Coast a lot anymore, to be honest with you. Coast does a lot of standard. They've done the same thing just year after year after year. They do a great job at it. They make phenomenal beer, and they continue to produce that every year. But I think they're getting ready to make a big resurgence as well.
Yeah, they've already started work on their expansion next door.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize is that Jamie with Coast, they were very instrumental in getting the beer laws passed in Charleston.
100%. Probably the most instrumental.
Yeah, the work that they
laws.
did really paved the way for the rest of the breweries in Charleston.
100%.
You're right. It is Coast is kind of overshadowed a little bit by Palmetto. Some people consider Palmetto Charleston's oldest brewery.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember my history correctly, there's been an operating brewery called Palmetto starting in the late 1800s, but it's not the same entity it is now.
Right. Something like that, yeah.
And I think by operating, I mean it was on, then off, on, off. So.
Right.
But Palmetto, Coast, and Holy City have been three real great pioneers of this city as far as craft beer.
Right. And I think, Holy City, and I mean Palmetto's, had a resurgence, with being merged with Catawba, whatever. They're putting out much better stuff and more. It's getting distributed, into a wider scope. But I think Coast and Holy City are getting ready to take off.
And I know from talking with Hank at Common House, they're really excited to have Holy City there because now you have more than one brewery to be a destination. You come to Common House, make sure you hit Holy City and go on over to Coast. They're all, in my opinion, I
mean, you got the brew cellar right there. So it's not a brewery, but that's.
Oh, the guys at Brew Cellar are awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm curious on your opinion. I think that 3 breweries are a good, day tour.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think 4, people get a little too much in them, is a little too much. 2 is kind of, but I think 3 breweries is kind of like the perfect little day tour.
I think so too, yeah.
So, with Common House, Holy City, and Coast being all right there, and it kind of hurts Free House and Polly's Island with Holy City moving their presence kind of out of that little area because you had a great little corridor right there.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. Besides conflicting hours, let's put it that way. I mean, Holy City's open 7 days a week, and you got Poly. Oh, when are they open? I don't know. Free House, when are they open? Who knows?
Free House is only open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I think.
Right, and it's always been kind of befuddled me that why would you not have the same hours as Holy City or Polly's Island? Same thing. Why would not all 3 of those people maintain the same hours and have a round robin, like you said, where you hit all three of these breweries every day that you go down there.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they not maintain the same hours? I guess they figured out themselves it's not cost effective. I guess that's the only reason I can think of.
And I know that Mondays used to be the day off for breweries.
Right.
So they used to be able to hardly find anybody but Holy City open on Mondays.
Yeah.
But now that's kind of, gone by the wayside too.
Right. But still, I mean, even still, I mean, you got what, Family Large, you got or FAMS, I guess is what he wants to be called. You got Holy City, you got Frothy Beard. Who else is open 7 days a week?
The Fermentary is, Common House is.
Fermentary, Common House, okay.
Polly's maybe now,
I don't think they are.
or maybe not Mondays.
But there's not many, right? I mean, Edmonds Oast, I guess.
Edmonds Oaks, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, all three of those are of Edmonds: the brewery, the exchange, and the restaurant.
Right.
Coast isn't. I think Palmetto is maybe.
Maybe.
Revelry's open.
Yeah,
they
Revelry's
got the
open
kitchen.
7 days a week. Yeah. I don't know. There's a few of them, I guess. More so than there used to be. I mean, it used to be brewery hours were very limited. You had to kind of pick and choose when you could go. But I mean, even the big brewery. I mean, Westbrook. I mean, you think of that as the mega brewery of the Low Country, right? I mean, they're the biggest guy. They're the most distributed.
They're one of the Low Country
and
breweries that have
they're not
like
very accessible.
a nationwide presence. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I don't know why they wouldn't be open 7 days a week.
They don't have to be.
Well, that's true. That's true. They don't have to be. Yeah.
Hey, speaking of Revelry, you been to the Hold?
Oh, I love the Hold.
What a great program there.
Fantastic.
And the fact that, doggone it, now I can't remember the drink. The, is it the Beer Manhattan? That they actually have, like, beer combo drinks there, too, I think is really kind of interesting.
I haven't done any of that, but we get a lot of the Hold, bottles at Homegrown, so I drink a lot of them on out of a bottle. But I've been to the Hold twice now, and phenomenal. I love it.
It's a really neat niche flagship program for them. And, what an undertaking. Having your own wild program in the middle of downtown Charleston where they say, hey, stuff from I-26, come and get in our beer.
Yeah.
That's, a lot of people don't understand that, but that's, what a great way to get new beer, new tasting beer.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I would assume that their main brewery does more business than the Hold, because the Hold is kind of a niche. It's sours, barrel-aged stuff or whatever. That's not for everybody, but so I was going to say I wonder which does more business, but obviously the Rooftop.
Yeah, the Rooftop.
Come on, that Revelry does the most business over there for sure.
When I was talking with that guy, I can't even think of the owner's name now. Not Hunter, not Sean, Ryan.
Okay.
When I was talking with Ryan when they originally were building the Rooftop, and I saw the massive amount of steel going in there, and I was like, man, that'll never be popular.
Yeah.
No one's ever going to walk up all those steps to drink beer.
Yeah.
And now you go there on Saturday or something, there's a waiting line to get upstairs.
Any day, really. I mean, you go over there during, sunset, and it's packed.
Mm-hmm.
Any day of the week. Yeah.
Well, man, I wish I had an idea like that.
Right. Yeah. Fermentary needs a rooftop, right?
Avondale zoning laws.
Oh, they won't do it?
I don't know, but
yeah,
that's putting a roof on a building and making it accessible to everybody kind of changes a whole lot of things.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how they get away, talking about the rooftop there at Revelry. I don't know how they get away with that. the steps on the way up there, man. It just seems like that would be a big liability.
It's a long way down.
It's a long way down. Yeah. I've come down those steps a couple of times, and I'm like, ooh, man, that is rough. So what do you do in your spare time, Kyle? Anything besides electrical work, brewery work, driving around promoting other breweries, beer, whatever?
Well, I usually try and make Christy, my wife, happy, who's out. She's Mrs. List on Instagram, by trying to keep up the yard work in the pool.
Okay.
And taking her out of town every once in a while.
Right.
But that's a full life right there.
Yeah.
And I'm very fortunate that I have a lot of friends that are in the brewery industry. That there's always a weekend event going on. I mean, like right now, I'm involved. Like I told you on the Divas. So
Oh, that was one of my notes. Was the Divine Divas?
Divine
To ask you
Divas.
about that, yeah,
So
because that's why you couldn't make it last night. We were supposed to do this last night.
So Jason Allen Kirk, who works with the Palmetto Community Care, he's done the Charleston Beer Garden, which is now the Charleston Beer Fest.
Okay.
Which that's the yearly beer event that took over after Coast quit having Revival.
Okay. Which was what? 2017? Was that the last one I did, or 18?
I'd have to look at my T-shirts.
I think it was 17.
17,
yeah.
Which I loved Revival. What a
Mm-hmm.
So they've kind of grown and take over from that, and their other fundraiser is called every year they have. Like this year, it's based on Alice in Wonderland's Mad Hatter. So it's called Gay Bingo, but basically it's a bunch of people getting together to raise money for Palmetto Community Care. And I was nominated by my wife to be a representative up there. We get up there. The first half of the event, we basically go around and help out with the bingo. We serve beers, we usher people to their seats, and then we may have a dance number in the second half while we're dressed up. But in the end, it's still a bunch of people coming together to raise money.
Right.
And luckily, one of my dance partners is Michael from Frothy Beard.
Okay.
And there's a couple other beer representatives in there because Jason and Palmetto Community Care is really big in the craft beer industry. The Beer Fest has all the local breweries, period.
Right.
They always do different events at
Keep going.
each of the breweries, and it's one of those deals where there's such a big supporter of the local community that everyone else wants to help support him too.
Right.
So it's something I'm never done before. Yeah, I guess stepping outside your comfort zone is always good. We'll see how this turns out. But it's for good people and for a good cause.
Well, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah,
Good people, good
is.
causes. Divine Diva. So do you dress up? I mean, what's going on over here?
Oh yeah, we dress up. I have to pick my own costume out. I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing yet, but they've offered guidance as far as dress and makeup. So we'll see where it goes. Apparently, I have to learn how to dance in women's shoes too. So,
You mean high heels?
well, I think I can wear clogs or something like that too. So I may have to go with something a little more stable than high heels.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm gifted enough to do that.
I don't think so either. I mean, myself, yeah, for sure.
But it's funny how, and you probably know when you dedicate yourself to something, you find out how far it spreads. So when you say I'm going to support this, you sometimes find yourself going, "Wow, I don't think I would have done that on my own."
Right. True.
Like for example, the every year Holy City does a kayaking tour as part of the beer fest, or not the beer fest, the beer week.
Okay.
They have a Little Country Boy on kayaking. Never been kayaking before until I went out on that before. I thought, man, it's still water. How much fun would it be to get on a kayak and go out there and drink beer?
Right.
Man.
Which I was going to ask you about beer week, but yeah, kayaking. And Paul told me they're going to have actually a launch right there at the new location where you can put your kayak in right there at the new location.
Right.
So that's going to be fantastic. And you can, I think, maybe you can kayak over to Coast. I think he said. I'm not sure.
That's one of the things that I regret. I haven't done a whole lot of. There's a lot of the waterways of Charleston that are beautiful. I have not spent a lot of time on them.
Yeah.
Just because coming from Kentucky, you don't have a lot of waterways.
Really? There's not much water there?
Unless you want to travel up to the Ohio River or go to one of the lakes.
Okay.
So, but it's quite abundant in here.
Yeah, we got the. What else you got over? You want to open another beer?
Sure.
What do you got?
You can either do.
That's more yacht party.
Yeah, it's more yacht
right?
party. You can either do the Telstar, which is Telstar 4. That's that one. That's the fourth version of a repeating series of double IPA.
All right, let's do it. Telstar. So yeah, I mean, I just got back. What's today? Today is Wednesday. So Sunday I went out on the Edisto with a friend of mine, Gordon Peters. We go out quite often on the kayaks, and we're trying to traverse the entire Edisto River, which the Edisto River is the longest blackwater river in the United States, as a matter of fact. 250 miles, and we're trying to do the whole thing. So we just went out and did, this past Sunday we did, depending on whose GPS you look at, his or mine, 9 to 12 miles of the Edisto River. So we were trying to figure it out. I have to go back and look at the numbers and the maps that we've done. We're probably close to about 80 miles of the 250 miles of the Edisto so far. So it's fantastic. Kayaking is something I picked up once I moved back here. Well, I did some, I guess, in Alaska and Las Vegas, but something I've really picked up, and I bought my own kayak now. I have it down in the garage since I've been back here in the Low Country, and it is so therapeutic to just get out on the water for 6, 7, 8, 10 hours and be out and be part of nature and just be on the water and hear the sounds of nature and get some exercise and whatever. Drink some beer, some great beer, local beer. I would highly recommend it to anybody, especially here in the Low Country. There's so many waterways that you can get out to. You know, the Ashley River, the Edisto River, the beaches, whatever. It's phenomenal.
So now you got to kind of help me out on this, because growing up, the only thing I knew about kayaks was what you saw of those guys going down, like the white water stuff. So the gear is a little bit different. The boats are a little bit different down here.
Yeah.
It's
well, I mean, whitewater. You know, these are like the Edisto River. It's not a dammed river. There's no dams or you're not going to get any white water. It's all just a flowing 1.5 to 2 miles an hour flowing river, and it all goes one direction. You know, out toward the ocean. If you get on like the Ashley River, it's a tidal river, so you have to contend with the tide coming in and out. So you might go out to the Ashley River. Let's say we go over here to Oak Brook Landing here in Somerville. Depending on the tide, the water might be coming in or it might be going out. So you have to, if you go out there for an hour or so, you might go against the tide going one direction, and you ride the tide back in the other direction. So the Edisto, the great thing about it is it's all one direction. You're all just going downriver. You can go up against it, I guess, if you wanted to, if you want a little bit of a challenge, but we always ride it down. So yeah, it's not like a rapid. I mean, it's just very calm. Yeah, just easy going. I mean, you can paddle a little bit if you want to, or you can just sit back and let the water just kind of take you down the river.
Have the rains affected it very much lately, or?
Yeah, the rains will pick up the level of the river and the flow of the river, of course. So yeah, the rain definitely affects it. Yeah.
Do you like fish or anything on it? Why you go, or just paddle
we have
along?
not, and I say we, you know, me and my buddy Gordon Peters, we go down all the time. We keep saying here recently that we are going to take a rod and a reel down with us and try and do some fishing on the way down, but we haven't yet. But plenty of people do.
Now, I saw on your last Instagram post that you did have a couple beers. What were the last 2 beers you had on there?
On the Edisto River, we did a Super Cluster IPA from Lagunitas. We did a Hoppin' Pills from Westbrook Brewing Company.
Oh, yeah. How is that? I almost bought it from Brew Cellar the other day.
It's very good. Yeah, we had it on draft at Homegrown Brew House, and we got it in cans over there, 16-ounce cans. And then we had the Azaka Rinse and Repeat from Westbrook as well. And I think we had a couple other things, but those are the three main beers we had out there that day. We did a key lime pie ghoster from Westbrook as well. We had a lot of Westbrook beers out there, as a matter of fact. Yeah. But they were all great. They're all great river beers for sure. The Hoffenpils probably is my favorite so far. A beach beer, river beer, just a nice, clean Pilsner.
Yeah, I held the 4-pack when last time I was at the brew cellar. I held the 4-pack for a couple minutes trying to decide because I unfortunately am on a budget every once in a while. So I can't remember what I got now, but I did not get that, and I regret it.
Yeah, it's good. What is this one again?
Telstar 4.
Telstar.
Which is our latest version of a double IPA.
Thunder going on out there?
It sounds like it.
Telstar 4. There we go, right there. IPA Imperial Double New England Style. And there's no description on here whatsoever. That's all it says. 8.2% ABV. It doesn't even list IBUs on here. It's got an average rating of 4.3 on Untappd, so it's a good rating.
Adam and Justin do a great job of. This is kind of like what we would call the experimental model. It's a good recipe based off of a New England style IPA, and each recipe they change the hops.
Okay.
And we recently did a beer that had Nelson Sauvin hops in it, New England style, or excuse me, a New Zealand hop, and that kind of opened the floodgate to experiment with even larger amounts of hops or different styles of hops.
Right.
So this is kind of like the beer that we get to experiment on. It's the same recipe for grains. It's just the hops they change around.
Okay. Yeah, and this guy here said, I thought the 3 was excellent, but somehow they made it better with the 4. So.
Now, see, personally,
and I haven't tried the other, 1, 2, and 3, so I can't compare it to anything. But
I like the 3 better than this one, but only because I had the opportunity to taste them side by side.
Right. No, this is phenomenal. Very good. And what hop is in this? Do you know?
Nope, don't know.
No. And it doesn't list it on here. That's what I hate about it on tap sometimes. Depending on who loads the beers, it depends on that determines what information you get. But
it may be on our current menu.
I don't know if the other ones are listed here. Yeah, so this one, the Telstar, the original, dripping with ripe mango, fresh squeezed oranges, and rounded out with a dank, pithy, dark character. Hopped with Vic's Secret, Citra, Lupulin, and Motica. So that was number 1. Telstar 2. Ella hops from Australia and Amarillo lupulin powder. So you guys are doing a lot of lupulin stuff over there instead of whole hop or whole cone, or
every once in a while. I wouldn't say it's,
is that the new thing in brewing?
It's a different thing.
Okay. I've been seeing it more and more often. It just seems like it's probably easier, right? Probably maintains better too, as far as going bad or whatever. I mean, do you have a hop that goes bad? If it sits there too long, it just loses its flavor profile or whatever.
I'm not sure because we don't let them sit around long enough to do that.
And Telstar 3 doesn't have any description, so I don't know what it's got in it. But so 3 and 4 have no description on.
Telstar 4 has a Citra Cascade and Motueka.
Okay. I like all those.
Citrus Fruit Overload.
Yeah.
Cascade helps kickstart the beer revolution. Pithy Orange, Tangerines, Grapefruit, and Overripe Mango is the official from memory description.
That sounds about right. Citrus is probably my favorite hop. What do you think? You have a favorite?
Man, the New Zealand ones. I'm really the Nelson Sauvin.
Mm-hmm.
I think Motueka is the other one.
Right.
I really loved the Nelson Sauvin beer we did. There was something about, and I'm lucky. I get the chance to smell them when you open the bag up before they
Sure.
go in the beer. It just really attracted me to that one.
Right.
How about you? You got a favorite hop?
I like the Citra. That's probably my favorite out of any of them.
It's funny though that every once in a while, and you probably know this too, when you have a customer who has had 3 or 4 different beers, and they'll pull up a beer and they say, "Oh man, I love the Citra hops in this beer," and you're like, "Yeah, there's no Citra hops in there."
Right.
But every once in a while, there is somebody that really gets it right. But I think being able, it's kind of like a wine connoisseur. A sommelier can pick out maybe the very particular different notes.
Right. Yeah, Cicerone.
Yeah, Cicerone. Yeah. But I think when it comes to like general populace, the taste buds have changed to where people can say, "Oh, that's West Coast, that's New England IPA." But I really, because I have a hard time picking out the different hop flavors.
Yeah. Me too.
Because there's just so many right now. I mean,
Yeah.
we get
and
a hop
they're
book
blending them.
that has hundreds of different hops in there.
Right. This is a good one. I appreciate you bringing it.
Well, thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank Adam and Justin for making it and brewing it.
I will. I'm going to get over there and thank them for sure.
It's my pleasure to clean kegs for that.
Yeah.
That's one other thing I wanted to say about the craft beer industry, and like I said, you know about, is that 90% of the people work hard every day. It's a heavy, hot, wet environment. The brewers are up on the brew deck for hours on end. Anybody dealing with beer, 24 hours a day, they're worried about the beer.
Yeah.
So it's an industry where there's so many people that just work hard for it, as opposed to getting up, checking their email, wandering in, doing a little computer work, maybe a meeting or two.
Sure.
One of the great things about hanging around with Chris Brown at Holy City is that I've had the pleasure of being in a couple meetings with him, and it's while we're standing in the brewery or sitting in the brewery. It's not in an office or a boardroom somewhere.
Oh yeah. Every meeting I see them have over there, it's around the table there at the brewery, and they're drinking some beers and having some food. And
But your feet might be getting wet. You're going to be getting a little hot. There's still people wandering around doing stuff.
Yeah.
It really is a great industry for people who are dedicated to working hard.
Right.
And man, if you come up in the industry, you've earned it.
Yeah. I mean, especially a place like that, right? I mean, you got the temperature right now, feels like 104 degrees, and the humidity is 70, 80 degrees. And then you're standing over an open fermenter, with all this extra heat coming off on you. I mean, that's, yeah, that's work.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of work. Yeah. Versus sitting in an air-conditioned building, like you said, behind a computer or whatever. Not that those guys aren't working hard, but it's different.
It's a different work.
Yeah.
There's been 2 I can think of to where I can't remember if it was 2 blokes. Cooler went bad, and they had to go to Ghost Monkey, or Ghost Monkey had to go to 2 blokes. But they called for volunteers, and everybody was carrying kegs of beer.
Mm-hmm.
A 6-stool of beer is not light. It's like 80 pounds.
Right.
A half barrel, 100 and something pounds.
Yeah, 155 pounds, I think, or something.
So when you just say moving beer, it's not just you're picking up a 6-pack and walking over.
Yeah, I get a workout every day.
But you get people willing to do that to help the other person out. I mean, that's a big difference than saying, "Hey, I'm gonna write you a check for $50."
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people now on my phone contact list that have said you can just call.
Very cool.
It is. And you know how it is. It's you make people that are friends that you realize you can depend on, because they're used to depending on people. They got to depend on the people to have stuff clean, to move, to be able to brew, to be able to lift, to be able to work, to be able to serve the customers. And man, you find people like that, it's great.
Yeah. It's a great industry. I love it. And that's why you started your thing with craft beer, and that's why I've started mine. And, man, it's just a great group of people.
It is. It's been my pleasure ever since I moved here to be a part of it.
Yeah. You ever think about moving back?
Hell no. Nope. and I'll tell you one of the big reasons why is because due to my background, I was somebody that passed a level of security clearance to work on a base in Kentucky that builds Black Hawk helicopters.
Okay.
So they had a small little runway there, and what I had to do was I had to run security cable around the 6 mile of fence that surrounded this enclosure.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do it through all the months of winter. So the security cable through 6 mile of fence, the cable itself was something like 40 miles long. We had to attach it to the fence every 6 inches. Some of the weather we worked in was 2 degrees without the wind chill. And I said to myself, I will never be this cold again. So once we moved down here, it gets 30, 40 degrees. I'm still running around in a sweatshirt.
Maybe 20 degrees. Yeah.
Driving the Jeep through everything and just wondering, what are these people's problems? I don't understand. Why is everybody off the road?
Right.
So, but yeah, I said I'll never be that cold again.
All right. Well, that sounds like a good place to end it.
Man, what an awesome evening. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for doing what you do. I know there's a lot of people that really appreciate, just even a shout out or anything.
Yeah, no problem, man. I'm going to continue to do it, and I hope you do so as well.
Of course I will, as long as I can.
And stay here in the low country. Don't move back to...
I'm not.
to Kentucky. All right, Kyle. Well, I appreciate it, man.
Thank you
for coming in, and we will talk to you soon, guys.